Well, welcome to the January 2018 edition of City Connection. This is the live call-in show where you, the citizens of Grand Rapids, can ask your elected official about information and topics important to you. With Community Media Center, I'm Linda Galash. Typically in the studio with me is Mayor Rosalynn Bliss, but today we have with us Second Ward Commissioner Ruth Kelly. I want to say thank you for joining us today, Ruth.
Thanks, Linda.
Today's program will feature also a little bit of information not only about the Second Ward and Ruth Kelly's area as a commissioner, but also a little bit about a project or an idea here in Grand Rapids called Age-Friendly Communities. We'll learn about what that means and what that is. You'll also have opportunity to take part in the program. You can do this by a number of ways. You can call us at 616-459-4881. You can email us at cityconnection@grcmc.org, grcmc.org, as well as GRTV Access, that's the Twitter handle, as well as Facebook. Well, City Connection is broadcasting live today on GRTV's Livewire Channel 24, streaming live at therapidien.org, and back here at GRTV Live in the studio with Ruth Kelly. Again, welcome.
Thank you, Linda. It's good to be here again.
Yeah, it's great to have you. You're always so informative, and I just wanted to catch up a little bit on what is happening in Second Ward. You represent that area as well as the whole city, so tell us a little bit of some of the news in the Second Ward here in Grand Rapids.
I'll be happy to do that. We've had a lot of change, and I'll start with the changes at the neighborhood level. We've got many strong neighborhood associations, as you probably know, and as it turns out, we've had quite a number of people retire in the last year. So we have new people, and I'll let you know where they are. With the exception of Heritage Hill, where Jan Earl has been there for 32 years now, which is great because she's got all this historical knowledge. We have a new person in Easttown, that's Don Lee. He's working there. And then you move west to East Hills. Cynthia Ayers is there. In Midtown area, which is along by the Farmers Market all the way over to Michigan Street, Ellen Meyer is the new organizer. And then in the Belknap area, overlooking the city of Grand Rapids, and that's kind of the medical mile, all the area north of Michigan all the way to Leonard, that is Aliana Bootson. And then in the Creston Neighborhood Association, we have Megan Cruz. So we've got new directors in all of those neighborhood associations.
A lot of change.
A lot of change. So Commissioner Jones and I meet with them once a month so that we can share information. They can share among themselves about best practices, ask each other questions, and let us know what's going on in the wards so that we can be responsive.
What do you see with this many new faces, as well as General with her kind of seasoned view of things? What do you see with the new sort of representation in these communities as the town changes pretty rapidly?
Well, I think it's a bit overwhelming because of all the development that's going on. So there's a learning curve. But we do have some very skilled people that are diving in and learning. And a few of them have lived in the city all of their lives or come and gone, and they're very familiar. Megan Cruz was on the board, I believe, at Creston for a while, then moved away and now moved back. And then I wouldn't want to leave out the Northeast End Community Action Council too. They are very involved, although they don't have a paid staff person. They've been very on top of what's going on in that area out by Knapp's Corner, Plymouth and Leonard area. So,
how many square miles does Second Ward consist of?
It's about a third of the city, which is 45 square miles, so it's a pretty large area, 66,000 residents. It goes from the river all the way to the Beltline, and there's a small area next to Meyer Gardens as well, and then from Wealthy to 4 miles. So it's around 20 miles, square miles. It's a pretty large area, lots of people living in it and lots of activity.
That's a wide range of types of community areas too. When you think of what Belknap Lookout used to be, what it is now, then you think as you go out towards Knapp's Corner, and a lot of these areas, they're very diverse, very, very different. What is in common about Second Ward?
Well, I think probably it is the level of engagement is great in the Second Ward. Like I said, we have a lot of strong neighborhood associations, and they're very active. They stay in touch with us, they get involved, they serve on committees. When we are out looking for volunteers, we'll often have a surplus from the second ward of
Okay.
people who want to volunteer. So we still try to do our best to make sure that each ward is well represented, of course, but it's a very engaged community, and I think that's makes it exciting, and getting that grassroots bottom-up input is always helpful for building a good community.
Okay. Taking a look at that area from the business perspective and development,
Mhm.
what is new, what is coming that maybe we don't know about yet? What kind of development is happening?
Well, there's everything from improvement in our park system, and I'll start with that. The Ball Perkins Park trails have been refurbished, and we had an opening there. Aberdeen Park has had improvements. Huff Park, which we're so excited about it because it's got a beautiful nature trail. It's a gem in the city that some people have not even discovered, I think.
Okay.
So that whole area where you can walk through the swamp and observe the flora and fauna is being redone. So the parks system's being improved, and then of course, you see the development that's happening. We were fortunate, I think, to work out an agreement with Grand Valley State University, which was really groundbreaking for the city in terms of creating a memorandum of understanding that as they develop across Michigan, north of Michigan, as they've taken some houses down to put in a new facility for healthcare, nursing, and other health technologies, when that first building is done, they are also going to put some affordable housing in there. So they will contract that out. That's not their core mission, of course, but they are going to add back pretty much the same number of household units that were displaced. So that was a groundbreaking achievement for the city and the college to work together on that, recognizing that every community needs to have really a price point for all different groups to live in the city. And then you go down the street and you'll see another development, that Third Coast, couple of developments that they're working on. One we're excited about will have a grocery store, a smaller grocery store, like we'll see in the Myers project on the west side.
Okay.
And another mixed income project at Diamond and Eastern. And then I guess I can keep going. You almost have to drive through the city and hunt around for some of the new restaurants and some of the new buildings that are coming up. You see cranes in the sky. There's just a lot going on.
Okay. A couple things you mentioned I wanted to come back to. Affordable housing. That is something that Mayor Rosalynn Bliss put at the forefront as a priority for her and this commission. Talk a little bit more about some of the efforts here in Grand Rapids. You mentioned that a little bit when you were talking about Grand Valley's development. Right.
So about 3 years ago, we had a gathering at the Prince Center, Calvin College, and we had a good 100 people there in attendance, a lot of anywhere from developers, bankers, housing providers, both for and nonprofit, neighborhood associations. And out of that discussion came work groups that met throughout the summer and came up with a document called the Great Housing Strategies. Coupled with that, there was a study done. Volk Zimmerman is a company that did it, and helping us understand what the demand was in Grand Rapids, which was huge, as you're seeing. This is all happening now. And then we had the next steps when we had a transition from Mayor Hartwell to Mayor Bliss. She put together a housing advisory committee. And again, we met with the same kinds of people, developers, bankers, community advocates, fair housing, for example, Homes for All. People had seats at the table, and we looked at how do we make more specific those broader goals. So those specific policy changes are now coming before the commission, and we will have public hearings on them. And we're seeking input from the community to refine those goals before we put them into policy. But like cities all across the country, we are challenged as our cities are growing. People are moving back to the cities for a variety of reasons. And as a matter of fact, we're getting a lot of people who moved away, young people, that are coming back to the city of Grand Rapids, which is really gratifying.
Okay, that kind of has a ring of some success there then for
Yes.
the way we're growing here. Another thing you touched on was the changeover in staffing or the directors at some of these neighborhood associations, but at the city level, something big. We are saying goodbye to Greg Sundstrom as he retires after a number of years in community service work.
Right.
How is that process coming?
It's coming along. Greg intends to finish up in February, so we will be starting the interview process, and we've a survey was done to gather input, and we've hired a firm to work on that. I know that we had around 50 applications. She's narrowing that down for us and getting into greater detail with the applicants. And the commissioners will have an opportunity. We're each selecting a couple of people too to help us with that interview process, get feedback from them, but also have them give feedback to the candidates so that they understand what Grand Rapids is all about and what we're looking for. So hopefully by late spring we'll have somebody in place.
Okay.
But
So
we want to make sure we do it well. So
and slow and deliberate about it.
Absolutely.
Community
Yeah.
input was a large part of that. That closed out somewhere near the end of last year, so that's also part of what's being factored in this decision?
Yes, and that's been given, that's given to the candidates so that they can make a decision. Is this the community that I'm interested in? And this is what the community's looking for. And it also helps the consultant in helping to define, make those good matches.
Okay, good to know about that. And with Greg Sundstrom's final days in February, you will have a gap there. So some interim, someone serving an interim, I take it.
Yes. Well, Eric DeLong is there, and he will
Okay.
be available, of course, and he's got many years of experience, as has Greg. And and Greg will be available, I'm sure, as needed. And
Okay.
again, that's that dynamic with a new manager, how much input they want.
Okay. Another question for you, and I'm bouncing around just a little bit, but we talked a month or two ago a little bit with Mayor Bliss about the eviction program that the city receives some funding for, and I wonder if that program is starting to come together, where that process is.
Yeah, that's very exciting. You may remember that last year at the January series, which has started up
Okay.
again just now, Matt Desmond, who wrote the book Eviction, presented, and it's just pretty gratifying to know that a year later, here we are starting our own through the 61st District Court. And our court judges met with Judge Kelly from Kentwood, and they explored how it should look here in Grand Rapids, and they have developed this program. I actually went to a presentation, I think it was in November, December, and they've begun helping people. They had landlords come in to explain it to them, and said, even if you've got somebody before January when we kick it off, still send them to us. So people can come to the court, and the idea is that before you're too far in arrears, you've got to be there before their 3 months are up. Come to the court, and they're partnering with the Department of Health and Human Services, with support from the Grand Rapids Community Foundation in Steelcase to pay for the administrative piece of this, and they will seek some support and make up the difference of that rent in order to prevent somebody from becoming homeless, which winds up being much more costly on so many levels. So we're looking to avoid evictions and offer support and get a family into a support system before they're out on the street or having to double up in somebody's home or, heaven forbid, stay in a car in the winter.
Yeah, devastating in this kind of weather that we've been having.
Exactly.
A number of different avenues that Grand Rapids is addressing housing. This another one then. Housing
Yes.
is definitely at the forefront and a priority for what's going on right now.
Yes. Well, and we're looking not only at policy changes here and what we are able to do in the state of Michigan, because Michigan, of course, is we don't allow inclusionary zoning here, so we want to use our incentives and zoning changes to provide easier access to housing and different housing types. Because as you go through your life cycle, there's student housing or newlyweds compared to seniors. It's all changing. And as we will be talking about soon, we have a growing senior population all across the country. So we're finding that there are seniors who are maybe not wanting to stay in their single-family home anymore. The maintenance is too much, both in terms of the expense and the work itself, but would like to transition into something like a condo or an apartment, and there just wasn't the availability of that kind of housing in the city. So we're looking to provide that.
Okay. Well, we're going to take a break now, and you are going to be visiting with a guest you brought with you. That is Virginia Smith, and she is going to talk with you about age-friendly community. She's an intern with the city at some level, so I look forward to hearing more about that.
Yeah.
We'll break now. This is City Connection here on GRTV's Livewire, Channel 24.
Great.
All clear. All right.
Do you have an interest in improving Kent County health conditions? Do you have a passion for supporting youth? If you answered yes to either of these questions, you're a committed stakeholder in the future health and wellness of Kent County. Hello, I'm Shonda Vaughn, and I am a facilitator with Pine Rest Christian Mental Health Services and a proud member of the Kent County Prevention Coalition. People are drawn to things that they are passionate about. The Kent County Prevention Coalition is made up of people and organizations who are passionate about seeing Kent County win. Together, we have translated passion into purpose and purpose into action. The result of this synergy is collective impact. An integral component of the success of the Kent County Prevention Coalition is its partnerships with community organizations. It takes a village to impact community change. We believe that wisdom, resources, power, and expertise lies within our community. As 2017 comes to a close, we wanted to take a moment to reflect on a few noteworthy areas of impact that the Kent County Prevention Coalition has made in its journey of innovation, commitment, and empowerment. Point of impact number 1. This year, over 1,200 youth convened at DeVos Place for the 6th annual Above the Influence Kent County Youth Summit. This massive event was one for the books, with 75 adult volunteers assisting in the effort. Point of impact number 2. Over 120,000 people tuned in to view Kent County Prevention Coalition monthly PSAs, like this one, in this year alone. Point of impact number 3. Many hands make light work. Over 11,070 in-kind hours were donated to the work of the coalition. Point of impact number 4, social media growth. Team Kent County Prevention Coalition is bringing the message of prevention to screens nationwide with over 119,000 impressions spanning all social media platforms. Point of impact number 5. We are glad to say our work is both life-changing and effective. 1,350,924 lives were impacted this year by the work of the Kent County Prevention Coalition. A huge thank you goes out to our member organizations and volunteers. We appreciate your countless hours, commitment, and dedication. If you have heard something that piqued your interest or have always wanted to roll up your sleeves and help move the vision forward, we invite you to participate in our movement, because after all, it starts with us. You're invited to our next coalition meeting. The Kent County Prevention Coalition General Assembly meets on the 4th Tuesday each month from 12 to 1:30 p.m. For a full schedule of meetings, events, and locations, please visit the Master Calendar section of our website at kcpreventioncoalition.org. I hope to see you at the next meeting.
The Wealthy Theater is Grand Rapids' local movie theater and performance center. Since 1998, it has been a host to nationally touring music groups, local theater performances, and a variety of community events. Today, the Wealthy Theater is not only a landmark community treasure with historic significance, but a pioneer in the infusion of technology and traditional theater. Underneath the elegance and classic sensibility that defines Wealthy Theater, there is a matrix of new technologies. The theater is completely digital and outfitted with cameras and microphones for concerts, theater and comedy troupes, speakers and lecturers, and so much more. Experience all that Wealthy Theater has to offer. And bring a friend. Be surprised by the Wealthy Theater.
Welcome back to City Connection, and today I will be interviewing a dear friend of mine who I've gotten to know in the last year and a half, Virginia Smith. Virginia is working as an intern in the planning department for the city of Grand Rapids. And the reason she's with us is because, as many of us know, 10,000 people a day are turning 65 in the United States. So in order to prepare for this changing demographic, we've enlisted the help of Virginia and others to help us think through how we want to plan for that in the city of Grand Rapids. A little background, I learned about the work that that ARP is doing with a program called Age-Friendly Communities when I went to a conference a few years ago and was surprised to learn about their Livable Communities efforts. And the reason I was surprised is that as I read through them, I thought, this sounds more like what we're trying to do for millennials. Well, as it turns out, the efforts in housing and transportation and safety are very much aligned with what we need to do for all of us in all age groups. So with that information, I went back to the planning director and she put me in touch with people in our local ARP organization, and we decided that we would explore becoming what's called an age-friendly community under the World Health Organization. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Jenny, and give us a little bit of a timeline from that point on.
Well, I think probably those discussions perhaps began in 2015, and they were followed in 2016 by, we had 3 community meetings. This was before I came on board. But they included leaders from our elder advocates, representatives from our nonprofits who are already offering services to seniors, and representatives from senior leadership. And that actually set the stage for what we then did this year, which was a citywide community age-friendly listening tour.
Exactly, and I remember that because the first one was held out at the Kroc Center.
Yes.
With the help of advocates for senior issues that I've been involved with. So, and then once we got through those meetings, why don't you talk a little bit about the reason for the listening centers and what we've heard?
Well, those 3 meetings actually set the stage, and so we're very thankful for the people that participated in those meetings, because that information, from those conversations, we saw 3 trends emerging. Housing, which we know is important in Grand Rapids, transportation, and health, which wasn't surprising because at least 1/3 of those participants were already involved in the health industry. But one of the other things that AARP, who is one of our partners, did for us was they conducted a citywide survey to kind of see how the older adults in Grand Rapids are already feeling about the services in Grand Rapids. And so from that survey, we found that most older adults are happy with health in Grand Rapids.
That's a good thing to hear.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But we did find areas where we can improve, like housing, like transportation, and communication. And so then we put together a citywide listening tour in the fall of last year, September and October. We went to more than 22 different locations. We started by looking at where the largest populations of older adults are in the city, and we found, using census data, that most of our older adult populations are located in the northwest part of the city, the northeast, and the southeast.
Okay.
So we wanted to hear from as many older adults as possible, but we also wanted a diversified conversation. So we also held meetings in the core of the city at the senior center. We have one senior center in Grand Rapids, which is on Division.
Mm-hmm.
We also had meetings at United Methodist Community House. We also had meetings in the Roosevelt Park neighborhood at the Cook Library. So we also reached out to disability advocates. We reached out to the dementia community, and we reached out to the refugee community.
So you really got a broad spectrum of input. I attended a couple of those, one with the Alzheimer's community and one at Senior Neighbors. So what kind of things did you hear?
So it was really interesting. Housing came up a lot all across the city, which we weren't surprised about. That's affecting older adults who may be already living in their homes. For instance, in the southeast, where we had a lot of the participants at that event owned their own homes, but maybe for various reasons it's becoming too much for them. And so they may have thought about selling their home and moving into something that would offer them more services. But they have a paid-off mortgage, and when they look for something else that's affordable, they could not find anything.
That's not a surprise. And that leads us into, of course, that larger housing conversation. So transportation is also linked to housing. What did you learn about that?
Well, we're finding that a lot of these issues are not just for older adults, but they also include residents of all different ages. So just like our millennials are moving to the cities for housing and opportunities, so are our older adults moving closer in. And as we may be having more and more older adults who may be deciding not to drive anymore, they're looking at transportation. So we saw a lot of conversation around our public transportation, the Rapid. Also a lot of conversation around paratransit, like the Go Bus.
Right.
And then alternatives, like Uber and Lyft.
Right. And then not to mention being a walkable community and even a bike-friendly community, because you're seeing more and more people, including seniors, on bikes.
Yeah.
So yes, and we might also mention that there are actually 8 domains that the World Health Organization and ARP have identified, and we'll have some opportunity to talk about those more in depth in a few minutes. But is there another way for people to participate in that survey if they missed the listening session?
Well, one of the things that we did to reach as many older adults as possible is we did the in-person listening meetings. We also put together a survey, and then we also put together an online survey.
Okay.
And that went all the way through December. And so now what we're doing is we're looking at all that information that we collected, and then probably in this following year we'll be doing a second tour where we'll be going back to our older adults and all of our participants and telling them what we found from all of the listening events.
Excellent, excellent. All right. Well, we will wrap this section up of our conversation, and we will move into an opportunity for people to call in and ask us some questions.
Very good.
Thank you, Jenny.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Parents, landlords, renters, and homeowners, listen up. After a decade of decline, the number of lead-poisoned children in Kent County is rising. In some Grand Rapids neighborhoods, lead poisoning is rising a lot. The culprit isn't in the water, it's in lead-based paint found in older homes. Let me repeat that. The culprit isn't in the water, it's lead-based paint found in older homes. 2 out of 3 lead-poisoned children in Kent County live in the Grand Rapids zip codes 49507, 49504, and 49503. The lead poisoning can cause serious health problems, including permanent brain damage. Hi, I'm Hannah Gilliam with Healthy Homes Coalition of West Michigan. If your home was built before 1960, you probably have lead paint inside and outside of your home. But lead poisoning can be prevented. It starts with fixing homes before children get poisoned. And there's funding to help fix these homes. The local Get the Lead Out program is here to help. This is a program of the City of Grand Rapids in collaboration with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, Healthy Homes Coalition, the Kent County Health Department, Link Up, and the Rental Property Owners Association. And if your child tests positive at a certain level for lead, fixing the home is free. The most common types of work to remove lead hazards are repairing and replacing windows, or repainting and replacing siding. Attempting to do these repairs yourself can be dangerous because lead paint can flake off. Flaking paint chips and the dust kicked up from scraping lead paint can be incredibly toxic, even at microscopic levels. And that's why the removal and repair is best left to certified professionals. And the funding is here to help pay for those repairs. Don't wait for a Get the Lead Out representative to knock on your door to see if your home has lead paint. Contact us today. If you live in or own a home in the city of Grand Rapids, especially one that you know was built before 1960, and you have children in the home ages 5 and younger, call the Healthy Homes Coalition of West Michigan at 616-241-3300 or go to gettheletoutgr.org to learn more.
Hi, I'm Major Norman Granger of the Salvation Army. The Salvation Army of Kent County supports area families with a variety of programs. Through our Adult Rehabilitation Center and Turning Point programs, we empower people to overcome addictions and reconnect with life. Our emergency disaster services provide mobile and fixed feeding sites serving hot food and beverages to victims and first responders during and following a disaster. We offer food assistance by responding to households who have immediate needs by offering a supply of basic food items through our emergency pantry. We provide energy assistance by assisting households who are behind in paying their utility bill or who need assistance to restore utility service so that they can safely stay in their housing unit. The Salvation Army works to prevent and end homelessness by providing housing stability and ultimately permanent housing through our Housing First model. The Salvation Army's Little Pine Island camp engages over 1,000 kids each year with 7 weekly overnight camping sessions. Our Croc Community Center helps share the love of Jesus Christ by providing life-changing spiritual and educational and wellness experiences on its 20-acre campus. Our Full Nights Core Community Center is a refuge for people of all ages, providing activities, community and spiritual guidance to children, adults and senior citizens. Consider supporting the Salvation Army throughout the year by donating online at sakentcounty.org or calling us at 616-459-3433, by donating by mail at 1215 Fulton Street East, that's in Grand Rapids 49503. If you'd like to volunteer for the Salvation Army and help with the programs and services, you can also visit our sakentcounty.org. I thank you for listening.
The Rapidian for the community provides an alternative.
To be the eyes of somebody who's not there.
It's more honest, more authentic, and more true.
And you do have the freedom to talk about things because they're things that need to be talked about, not because they'll get readers or viewers or clicks.
Sometimes it feels intimidating to write a news story or to write a story about a community issue. What I love about the Rapidian is that they make it really simple and easy.
So it's not like you have to meet this deadline by this time.
I'll be eating a sandwich in one hand and then I'm like typing in the other.
I love the freedom to be able to write from wherever.
I think it's a really powerful experience when people are able to tell their story and to be heard.
Anyone can have a voice.
Anybody can speak.
It's a platform for the community to tell its own story in a very authentic way, and that's powerful.
A community has to be involved in order for it to be sustainable. And so it tells you something about our community.
Welcome back to Community Media Center's GRTV Livewire, Channel 24. The show is City Connection. Hosting with me today is City Commissioner Ruth Kelly, and we have in studio with us a guest intern with the City of Grand Rapids in the Planning Department. It's Virginia Smith or Jenny Smith. We were learning quite a bit about what it means to be an age-friendly community, a little bit about some of those important sectors that are important for seniors. But first, how about you just describe what it means to be an age-friendly community, where that terminology comes from, what it means?
Well, I think the term probably was first used maybe more than 10 years ago in 2006. And the World Health Organization was looking ahead to all of these babies that had been born after World War II and were going to be turning 65 and aging. And they felt like the cities needed to be prepared for that. So we may have great buildings, but are our buildings age-friendly? We may have good transportation, but is our transportation age-friendly? So the World Health Organization actually pulled together a group of 33 representatives from 33 cities and 22 countries and came up with 8 different domains that they felt like the cities needed to be looking at.
All right, and then you mentioned a couple of them already. You talked a little bit about transportation and housing. A third one that you had mentioned but you didn't get a chance to discuss is communications. How does that affect living in a senior sort of situation?
Well, when we did our listening tour, which we just completed, we did that last fall, communication came up as a really large issue. So we need to know how to get information out to our older adults in the city. What we found is that we have a lot of services available, but if people don't know that we have those services, then we have an issue for us to look at. So our older adults are asking for more education in a number of topics. They're asking for one central clearinghouse for information. So for instance, if you live in California and your older adult parents live in Grand Rapids, and maybe your mother just broke her hip and now you need to find housing, who do you call? We have lots of resources, but where do you start? So people are asking for one central clearing area for all things senior, including transportation and social events and housing. And so that they don't have to go all the way around and talk to 19 different agencies.
So how would that work? I mean, if we're talking about different segments of the country even, are we talking about one centralized website that then goes down to region, state, city, or what would that mean?
So for instance, in Grand Rapids, what they were asking for was, for instance, we have a 911 number for all things emergency. In the city, we have a 311 number. So if you have a question about anything in the city, you call one number and then they can direct you. So they were asking for something like that for all things senior in Grand Rapids.
Okay. Commissioner Kelly, you were mentioning that this reminded you a lot of what you were hearing from millennials as well, like some of the interests and some of the needs. I bet it's a little bit divergent though when it comes to the ways seniors and millennials communicate, especially if it has to do with social media or not. And
Exactly,
I just
right.
wonder what you're looking at as far as more on the communications methods then.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that our first step is to get that feedback.
Mm-hmm.
And similar to what happened when we embarked on our last master planning process, we hope that this information, in fact, this is one of the intentions of actually becoming an age-friendly community, is that this will inform us for our next planning process. So for example, we focused a lot on becoming a green community, Green Grand Rapids, and out of that came this whole initiative to improve our parks. We've done a lot around stormwater improvement that came out of that first master planning process. And it wasn't just the city, it was other groups that came on board. For example, Friends of Grand Rapids Parks supported our park system when we were going through the recession, and then out of that, a lot of volunteers formed Neighbors for Parks, Pools, and Playgrounds that got a millage passed. So we expect and hope the same kind of thing that will happen here, that these needs will be expressed and defined, and then someone will come forward to do that. It could be the city, it could be the county, it could be nonprofits, or a combination of all of the above. For all of these, and there are 8 domains that we're talking about that other cities have looked at that need improvement for seniors.
Okay. Do you want to go through some of those additional domains since we've covered 3 of them?
Well, and the other thing that we found is there are a lot of similarities between millennials and older adults. So just like with communication, many of our older adults are using smartphones and pads, iPads or computers. And then we do have another group that isn't, that would prefer paper.
For both millennials and seniors, I
Yeah.
see. Yeah.
So some of the other areas are social participation, respect and social inclusion. So when we did our listening events, I asked our older adults, do you feel respected as an older adult in your community? What social events would you like to see in the community? What would you like to continue participating in, perhaps if you no longer can drive? We also talked about civic participation and health. There weren't a lot of issues for health, but under civic participation, we're finding a lot of older adults want to continue working. Not everyone wants to sit on the porch in a rocking chair all day or on the golf course. They want to be active and involved.
Okay.
Yeah. So hopefully we will be able to design programming around that in the park system, for example, and that we will be able to meet some of those needs. And I'm pleased to say that some of our infrastructure improvements through the Vital Streets income tax expansion have proved fruitful and matched the requests here because of disability needs, so that we have ramps that get you from the sidewalk into the street. We're looking at Vision Zero to become a city where we don't have any pedestrian accidents. So we're looking at policies and changes, you know, the 5-foot rule to provide a little more space for people who are on bikes. We'll probably start seeing more recumbent bikes in the city because people are going to change their purchasing habits, and many people who retire, a lot of their work becomes staying healthy. So they're out there walking and biking and exercising.
Possibly talking about a part of our population that has a little bit more time for volunteering. Do you see that even when it comes down to even maybe city government and that sort of thing? Is that an aspect?
Yes, we were finding our older adults want to participate. They want to be able to vote. They want to be on jury duty. But transportation may be an issue. We're finding that they want to work, but they may not want to work 70 hours a week. They may want to work part-time or have a flexible schedule. And that also may be an issue for our millennials or our younger people who may want to work less hours and spend more time with a young family, or who want to work flexible hours around their education.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot about this that sounds like it could be a perfect match in a lot of ways, like an ideal.
Exactly. You know, matching people who need childcare with childcare support. There are all kinds of opportunities here. We just have to figure out how to put it all together, but it starts with planning, and that's why Jenny is here to help us with that, get that input, and then collate it all, and then get it out to the community, because we've got a community that steps up to the plate when things that need to get done and invents new
ways of
approaches.
doing it.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, how about you take the last minute to kind of close out with, there's mention of another listening tour and ways that people can get involved, maybe a website that talks a little bit about the study that's gone on so far.
Yes, we actually have an age-friendly Grand Rapids website. So if people want to go, the address is www.grcity.us/age-friendly. Or I tell people if you just Google age-friendly Grand Rapids, it'll probably bring you to the same place.
Okay, and then another listening tour or no?
We're hoping to do possibly a second tour, possibly the end of this year. And we're also going to be putting together work groups. So if there was a specific topic that people are interested in, we would invite them to participate in those work groups.
Great. And Commissioner Kelly, were you going to say something else?
Well, we also have a game that people have played. It's based on Candyland. It's called Grandyland. And really it's all about providing an opportunity to give that input, written input, and then turn that in. So it's been a fun process.
Well, and it sounds like we're just at the front end of it, so it's very exciting to learn a little bit more. Well, Jenny Smith with the Project for Age-Friendly Community here in Grand Rapids, thanks for joining us on air today at City Connection.
Thank you.
Well, we'll take a break now and be right back with Commissioner Kelly after this.
Alternatives in Motion enhances independence through access to mobility equipment. We take in gently used mobility equipment, including canes, walkers, manual chairs, and power chairs. We refurbish them, maintain them, and repair them to get them ready to donate to persons with disabilities in need right here in our West Michigan community. It is truly people giving back to people. We have helped thousands of people in the past 24 years with this unique model. One of our clients, Michelle, a veteran, was recently diagnosed with MS. The disease limits her mobility, and she couldn't interact with her family without a power chair. She had exhausted all other opportunities before finding out about Alternatives in Motion, and has been grateful to have freedom to interact with her grandchildren and family. The chair changed her life. This is what we strive to do every day at Alternatives in Motion, help people regain their freedom. But we need your support in two ways. Financial support so we can continue to pick up and deliver the vital mobility equipment to community members like Michelle, or to donate gently used mobility equipment so we can give it out to someone in need. Please go to our website at aimgr.org or call us at 616-493-2620. to find out how you can give the gift of mobility.
WYCE is a world of music. We aim to shine a light on underserved musical artists in a non-commercial format with no advertisements. Volunteers come in to create personalized music programming that broadcasts over the air at 88.1 FM to West Michigan and via the internet to listeners all over the world. These listeners sponsor our efforts, keeping WYCE independent and community-owned. Musicians use the station to broaden their audience and build support for their latest projects by submitting their music to be included in our broadcast and performing live in studio. Businesses find their customers through underwriting, nonprofits inform the community to their mission, and listeners stay informed about local events. We believe that music is a powerful force that creates quality relationships in our community, that speaks to our emotions, and provides the soundtrack to our lives.
Welcome back to City Connection. We're just going to close out the show with one more segment. This is an opportunity where you can also weigh in. We have email and Twitter opportunities and Facebook too if you want to ask some questions. I'm here with Commissioner Ruth Kelly, and we've been talking a little bit about not only Second Ward issues, but also with your guest, with Ginny Smith, some great information on age-friendly community here. And there was some discussion a little bit about housing. You have a little bit more information on a housing project here in Grand Rapids having to do with affordable housing.
Exactly. This came out of those conversations both about aging in place and about needing affordable housing, and it's called Grand Rapids Home Share. And it is a program that is housed in the New Development Corporation on the northeast end. And what it does is it pairs a senior, 55 and older, who would probably like to stay in their home but might need a little financial help to do it, or help with maintenance. And they are called the provider, and we try to match that person with a seeker. So New Development Corporation has a staff person, Lily Fossil, who does that matchmaking. And what happens is a person might be seeking home, affordable housing, and the provider will either offer at very low cost or even no cost in exchange for a little help around the house. Things like maybe taking out the trash or going to get groceries, raking leaves, shoveling snow. But that's worked out between the provider and the seeker. New Development Corporation does background checks, and that is an in-kind service that the city's providing in order to make this easier and affordable for people. And there is that opportunity for all the screening to take place so that you can kind of find a good match between people. They can list what they're interested in, where they'd like to live. So if anybody's interested in this is just one tool in the toolbox. Many times these kind of things happen naturally within maybe a church organization, for example, where people already know each other. But we're encouraging people to consider this as an option. University of Michigan has been doing it for years with their graduate students who need an affordable place to stay. So people will open up their homes in exchange for, again, no rent, low rent, and maybe a little bit of help so that the student can live affordably. And Vermont's been doing it, it's an age-friendly state, and they've been doing it now for 30 years very successfully. So we're kicking this off in Grand Rapids. And if anybody's interested, contact Lily at newdevelopmentcorporation.org.
So New Development Corporation is a local nonprofit that's been doing work in the housing realm for a lot of years. Just wondering a little bit about the criteria for something like this. Does a house have to have certain aspects like another exterior door? Or does it not matter? They're just going to play, like you said, matchmaker and just try to make the connection between the most likely fits.
It doesn't necessarily have to have an exterior door. It's like having another roommate, basically. And if you've got disabilities, then of course you might want to accommodate for that. So it all depends on those matches, and sometimes it can even be helping somebody who's got a family member, an extended family member. But getting that little bit of extra help to make the match, that's not necessarily going to need a background check, but at least to work out the details so that you can have a successful match really matters, and New Development can help with that.
Very interesting. And has that begun already? Is it already in place?
Yes, it's in place, so if anybody's interested, just get in touch with New Development and at least check it out.
Okay, good information on that. I'm going to run through a few of the questions that we kind of know of in advance, and one of them is lots to say about parking in downtown Grand Rapids and even in the outside areas of the center downtown. Can you tell us a little bit about what's going on there? We've got, what is it, a 95% saturation rate, and how is that being handled?
Well, as you know, the development around town happened fast. We went from foreclosure crisis to boom at record speed. And then we had a new hire in the city of Grand Rapids. Josh Nairmore is now head of Mobility GR. We changed the name because we're trying to broaden what that means in terms of transportation offerings. But Josh has been very busy looking for surface lots that are available in the interim before we consider a new lot, a new possibility on the city-owned property next to the downtown library. One just came online next to the downtown market, so that's available. And as we have been having these conversations with the Chamber of Commerce and businesses downtown too, we've also been offering some workshops on how to do transportation demand management. So for example, Spectrum has been very involved in that, in offering incentives to its employees to take the Silver Line in instead of parking in their ramps. Building a parking ramp is expensive, whether it's a city or a developer. It's $40,000 to $50,000 a space just to build it in a downtown area. So naturally you want to think twice before you do that. We're also looking at the possibility of doing car share in the city. And if you want to do that, then you want to provide some space for a car share in a ramp, for example. And then, of course, we're also looking at a bike share program. That's not going to solve the parking problem downtown. It can augment it. But all of those solutions are being considered, and I think we need to do it not only because autonomous vehicles will be coming online sooner than we think, apparently, but in the interim, I think car share is an opportunity too. Companies like General Motors are looking at it, and they are launching some of those solutions in cities like San Francisco, for example, where they're offering electric cars. So it's almost like a zip car, a short rental, almost like a bike share, really, but you're doing it with automobiles instead. So we're starting to see the automobile manufacturers looking into this as a profit-making opportunity. And in some communities around the world, you might buy a car, and as long as it's still within the first 3 years of its life and you've got a good track record driving, if you dedicate a few hours a week to yours, you can get paid for that. So imagine being able to buy a new car and pay for it by allowing it to be shared. So there are opportunities out there that are coming at us, and we need to explore those to address this demand.
Yeah, your comment from foreclosure crisis to boom was extremely rapid, so it makes sense. I wanted to follow up on you telling us that the department has changed its name to GR Mobile, and what now that encompasses. What else is a part of that?
Well, we've always had a person from the Rapid at the table. Peter Vargar, of course, is retiring, but he has been at the table. And we've got representatives from the neighborhood because of the neighborhood parking lots as well in the city that are city-owned, so we wanted them there, and they are also having concerns about parking and development, so we want their input. We've got somebody from the Bicycle Coalition, but for the most part, it's still, of course, automobile-driven, but it's just, we're trying to be mindful of all those needs and accommodate them, partly because, well, it's happening whether we like it or not. Are coming, and of course it's healthy for people, so we're accommodating people with bike lanes. And we've been trying to think about how we design our public space, our roads around pedestrians and bicyclists, because at the end of every automobile trip there is a part where you're going to walk as well or take a bike.
We talked a little bit about when we were looking at sort of the age-friendly community aspect of that, bicycling is going to become even more important. I wouldn't say that I feel very, very safe riding the bikes in the streets of Grand Rapids. And then when you think about people that are seniors doing that as well, I'm just wondering what additional steps are coming that can make it a more safe experience.
Well, there was a 5-foot rule, which was somewhat controversial, but really it just is trying to alert people to slow down, give some space. The bike can move over, the car can move over, and accommodate bikers. We're also looking at how do we connect with north and south and east and west routes. And so we have a transportation planner, Kristen Bennett, who came from Milwaukee, and she's working on that, including areas for families to commute within the neighborhoods. So we'll put signage up eventually, because not everybody's comfortable, not everybody's a bike commuter to work, and they're not comfortable on the busier streets, but they might be able to go through the neighborhoods and get to a destination. So we will be accommodating with that kind of opportunity as well.
Okay. Well, that wraps up City Connection for the month of February, and I really appreciate you stopping in today, bringing your guest. We learned so much today. Mayor Bliss is due back next month, but it's great to have one of the other commissioners sit in. You've done this before, and we always learn so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Linda.
And Commissioner Ruth Kelly from the 2nd Ward here with us today. This is City Connection here on GRTV, Livewire Channel 24. We'll be back next month, likely on the 12th, February 12th.